Okay, so now in section 6.2, we are going to use multiplication properties of exponents. All right, so first you need to understand the pieces of the exponent. So here's just some vocabulary words. So the big part of an exponent is called your base, okay? The little piece, which is up and in the corner on the right-hand side, is called your exponent, okay? And if you have, let's say, x to the fourth power, okay? The x is your base, the 4 is your exponent. Now, one thing I want you to be really, really careful about when you're writing things down on paper is do not make your exponent the same size as your variable, your base, okay? Make sure that your exponent is smaller, and it's called a superscript, and it's in the upper right-hand corner, okay? I will mark your answers wrong, even if you have the correct numbers, if you give me exponents that look like this, okay? So don't do that. All right, so what does x to the fourth mean? It means your base times itself that many times, okay? So x times x times x times x, okay? All right, and let's say that you have a variable, like in this case, a to the m, that is a to the mth, there's a th there, notice right there, mth power, okay, that's how you say that, okay, x to the fourth power. All right, there are special names for that and that. Whenever you have something to the second power, this one has a special name called squared, x squared. You could say that. And this one you could say x cubed. Okay, you will hear me say squared and cubed in place of to the second power or third power. Another thing that I hear students say, and it's like nails on a chalkboard, is I will hear students say x2. That's wrong. That is absolutely wrong. Or I'll hear students say x4. x4 means x times 4, okay? You need to say x to the fourth power, x to the second power, okay? Don't say x2, don't say x3, say x to the third power, or you could say x cubed, but don't say x3. All right, so we're going to simplify these. 4 to the third power means 4 times 4 times 4. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 4 is 64. So part A is 64. Part B, this will say part B, 7 to the first power just means 7. Okay, part C, 5/6 to the second power, or you could say 5/6 squared. That's kind of a mouthful, but you could say it. 5/6 times 5/6, which would be 25/36. Part D, I don't like to do decimals. Okay, so I've got 0.63 times 0.63, and you know what? I'm going to grab my calculator. And you know what I typed in? Here's what I wrote. I'll write down what I typed in. I typed in 0.63, and then my calculator has a squared button, and that button looks like this. Hang on, let me erase and I'll show you. I hit the button of, and for buttons I'm going to put them in a little square. It says x to the second power. And it automatically makes it look like this on my calculator. And then I just hit enter and it gives me this answer, 0.3969. Okay. Also, you could just type in 0.63 times 0.63. This method right here will save you a fraction of a second, and those fractions add up. All right, this situation right here is something that people miss a lot. including myself sometimes, okay? I'm definitely past it now, but man, whenever I was in school, I missed these problems a lot. Okay, so for part A, notice there are parentheses around the negative. This means -5 times -5 times -5 times -5, okay? Which is positive 625, okay? On part B, notice there are no parentheses around that. We only raise the 5 to the 4th power. We do not raise that negative sign to the 4th power. So the negative sign just sits out front, and we've got 5 times 5 times 5 times 5. This answer would be -625. You guys, this is a big deal, okay? And I promise you, from here on out, you're going to see probably one of these type problems on everything I give you, okay? So make sure you understand this concept. You will not get out of this class without understanding the difference between these two problems. All right, so this is one of our property rules. This is called the product property for exponents. It says that when you have the same base and you are multiplying, you add your exponents together, okay? So the same base and you're multiplying, you add your exponents together. So if I have x to the 2nd power times x to the 3rd power, that would be x to the 5th power. All right, let's look at this one. We do have the same base. We are multiplying. Add those exponents together. There we go. We're done. Do not multiply your exponents together. All right, let's look at part A. We have the same base. We are multiplying. Add those exponents together. So 2 to the 14th power. And by the way, can you do 2 to the 14th power? Well, I wouldn't want to, not in my head anyway, but I can grab a handy dandy calculator. Let me tell you how to type this in. If you're using the calculator that I recommend in the syllabus, here's how you type it in. You hit your 2, you hit it looks like this. It's called a caret button, okay? You hit the caret button, 2, caret, and then you hit 14, and then you hit enter, okay? 2 to the 14th power, hit enter, and you get, a big number, 16,384, okay? A common mistake that people make is they just multiply 2 times 14 and tell me 28. Clearly, this number is way bigger than 28, right? Okay, so don't mess that up. All right, next one, part B. Let's look at that. So 3 times 3 to the 4th. We do have the same base. We are multiplying. Add your exponents together, but you're like, there is no exponent there. There is, though. We don't usually write it. It's understood to be there, but what is there is a 1, okay? So this would be 3 to the 5th power. And again, I'm going to type this into my calculator. 3, I'm hitting the caret button. 5, enter, and I get 243. All right, on this one, part A to the 7th times A. Remember, there's a 1 there. Not usually written, but it is there. That would be A to the 8th power. On part B, we've got x to the 27th times x to the 13th. We have the same base. We are multiplying. We add our exponents together. This is as good as these get. But what if you have more than just 2? That's okay. We still have the same base. We are still multiplying. All we do is add all these guys up. Okay? So we've got d to the 4 plus 5 is 9. 9 plus 2 is 11. We're done. All right, now we have our power property for exponents. This is where if you have a power and you are raising it to another power, that means you multiply your powers together. Okay, that's called a power to a power. Multiply your powers when you have a power to a power. All right, let's look at this one. So on part A, we have y to the 5th, and we have that whole thing being raised to the 9th power. We have a power raised to a power. Multiply them babies together. So we've got y to the 45th power. On part B, we've got 4 to the 4th raised to the 7th. We have a power to a power. That means 4 to the 28th power. I don't even want to know what that is, but now I'm curious. I would hit 4 caret 28, because remember, this means 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 times 4, 28 times. That's a lot. Okay, I get something crazy silly here. Here's what I get on my calculator whenever I type this in. I get 7.20 blah, blah, blah. There's a whole bunch of stuff after it. Then it says times 10 to the 16th power. Do you guys understand what to the 16th power means? That means I would take this decimal and I would move it to the right 16 places. And that's how big this number is. I wish we were in class so that I could show you this. All right, this is our product to a power property. This says if we are multiplying two numbers and they are being raised to a power, you take each piece and raise them to that power. All right, so let's look at part A. Oops, part A. We've got negative 9d, and we're squaring both pieces of that. That means we've got, notice the negative is inside the parentheses. Keep it there. And then what is, always, always, always do the math if you can. You should all have calculators. You should be using them. And your calculator does have, if you're using the calculator I recommend, it does have parentheses on the calculator. The open parenthesis is just above the 8. The closed parenthesis is just above the 9, okay? And if I do the math on this, negative 9 raised to the second power, I get positive 81d squared. That's that answer. All right, let's look at this one. Part B. 3mn. We're raising every piece to the third power. So I've got 3 to the third power, m to the third power, n to the third power. And I can do this math right here. 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. M cubed, n cubed. Okay, that's how you would say that. 27 m cubed, n cubed. You could also say 27 m to the third power, n to the third power. All right, so this is where you might want to hit pause and take some notes, okay? You might want to have these properties written down in a notebook somewhere. And I strongly suggest you guys were working from home. So use those notes on a test or a quiz. That's fine with me. Make sure everything you do is your work, though. So what you write down is yours, all right? So write these babies down and use them later. All right, well, sometimes we have to combine some things, okay? So we're actually combining the rules that we've learned tonight. And look, I've got a power raised to a power and a power raised to a power. So on part A, I would have y to the 18th times y to the 20th. And now, since I have the same base and I'm multiplying, I can add my powers together. Y to the 38th power is my final answer. Okay? You guys, seriously, you should never give me, whenever you're multiplying, you should never give me, write down a variable twice, okay? You should write a variable down only one time, all right? Now, if you have pluses and minuses, that changes the rules a little bit. But right now, we don't have any pluses and minuses unless we're dealing with negative numbers, okay? All right. Part B, let's see here. Every single one of these is raised to the second power. And remember, when you have power raised to a power, you multiply your powers together. So I would have negative 6 squared x. I've got fourth power to the second power, which you have to multiply your power, so you get x to the 8th. And then on y, we've got y to the 5th to the second. So that means I multiply the 5 and the 2, and I get y to the 10th. I'm going to do this math right here, which is positive 36 x to the 8th, y to the 10th. There we go. We're done. All right, let's look at this one. So in part A, I'm going to raise each piece to the second power. So I've got 5 squared m squared times, there's nothing to simplify here, so I'm just rewriting it. Now 5 squared is 25. I can go ahead and combine these guys. So I would have, I can move my 3 over, by the way. Remember, with multiplication, you're allowed to move things around. So I've got m to the 5th power, and then I can multiply these numbers. 75 m to the 5th. All right, let's look at the next one. I'm raising each of these pieces inside the parenthesis to the 4th power, okay? So I've got 3 to the 4th, x squared to the 4th, which is x to the 8th, y to the 4th. Then I'm raising each of these pieces to the 3rd power, x to the 3rd, and then y to the 6th. I'm going to go ahead and do this math. 3 to the 4th power is 81. I'm going to go ahead and combine my x's. I'll move this 2 over, might as well. 2 to the 3rd power is what? It's 8. 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. Then I've got x to the 11th. How did I get 11? 8 and 3, guys. And then I've got y to the 10th. How did I get 10? 4 and 6. Okay, remember, when your bases are the same and you're multiplying, you add your exponents together. And then I'm going to do 81 times 8. And I get 648. X to the 11th, y to the 10th. We're done. All right, I can't simplify anything in that parenthesis. I can't simplify anything in this one, but I can go ahead and just multiply the 3 and the negative 4, and I get negative 12. I've got x squared and x to the 3rd. My bases are the same. I'm multiplying, so just add those exponents together, and we're done. Okay, again, I can't simplify anything in this parenthesis. I can't simplify anything in this one. So I'm just going to multiply 5 6 times 12. If you are not good at this, you need to get a calculator. 5 over 6 times 12 over 1. So I get 10. X to the 3rd times x to the 1st is x to the 4th. Y to the 1st times y squared is y to the 3rd. We are done. All right, that's it for this lesson. If you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. That's what I'm here for.